In the faraway desert village, where the scorching sun burned the earth dry, and the nights were filled with silence, heavier than the sand itself, women lived lives that were not truly their own. From the moment dawn broke, they rose to cook, clean, wash, fetch water from wells miles away, and care for their families, yet despite giving everything, they were denied even the smallest joys of living. Laughter was considered improper, speaking too loudly was labeled as shameless, and dancing, especially during the 9 sacred nights of Navratri, was forbidden. For while the men danced proudly in the village pandal, circling with pride to the heartbeat of the dhol, the women were told again and again, "Your place is inside the walls of your home. Garba is not for you. Celebration is not for you." And so, the sound of the dhol reached their ears, but never touched their feet. Among these women was Rupa, a young widow whose life had been painted with grief far too early. The death of her husband had not only taken away her partner, but had also stolen her right to exist with dignity. In village, widows were not seen as human beings with emotions, but as shadows of bad luck, omens to be avoided. They were forbidden from wearing colors, forbidden from smiling freely, and during festivals, they were expected to remain invisible. Each night of Navratri, when the pandal glowed with lights and the air filled with claps and chants, Rupa stood by the small window of her hut, staring into the distance, listening to the dhol, her heart spinning in silent circles, aching to join, aching to live. But destiny has strange ways of opening doors where none exist. One evening, while returning from the well with other women, Rupa heard a sound unlike any other, a steady, soulful rhythm. Startled yet drawn, the women followed the echo until they reached a lonely banyan tree where a traveling drummer, Arjun, was lost in his music, his hands moving over the dhol as if speaking to the sky. For a moment, the women stood frozen, torn between fear and desire. They knew this was forbidden. They knew discovery would mean shame and punishment. But then something inside them stirred, something long buried. Their feet began to tap softly. Their palms met in hesitant claps, and slowly, as if the desert itself had breathed life into them, they began to dance. For the first time in years, their bodies moved freely, their hearts raced with joy, and the silence that had chained them cracked open with each beat of the drum. And Rupa danced as though the desert had finally found its rain. The jingling of her anklets, the sway of her hands, the tears glistening in her eyes, they were not just movements, they were confessions, they were screams of freedom that words could never carry. In that fleeting moment beneath the banyan tree, she was not a widow, not a cursed soul, not a burden. She was alive, radiant, whole. Day after day, the women found excuses to return, pretending to fetch water or gather firewood, but truly, to find themselves again in the rhythm of Arjun's dhol. In that secret space, they laughed, they wept, they spun in circles that felt like prayers. Garba became more than a dance. It became their rebellion, their sanctuary, their way of saying, "We exist. We feel. We deserve joy." Every clap became a plea to the goddess, every step a declaration that they would not remain invisible forever. But as every story of courage carries the shadow of fear, their secret did not remain hidden for long. One night, while the village celebrated Navratri, the men discovered what had been happening under the banyan tree. Their rage erupted like fire. Women dancing? Widows celebrating? This is an insult. This is sin, they shouted, dragging Rupa before the crowd, ready to strip her of dignity, ready to silence her once again. In that terrifying silence, when shame and fear threatened to break her spirit, Arjun struck his dhol with thunderous force. The sound cut through the night like lightning. Rupa, trembling, looked at the angry faces before her, and with one single clap, she began. Her feet moved, hesitant at first, then strong. Her hands swirled with grace, and in defiance of centuries of silence, she danced. One by one, the other women stepped forward, surrounding her. The men could only watch, stunned, as the circle of Garba expanded, swallowing fear, breaking chains, rewriting destiny. That night, village did not just witness a festival. It witnessed a revolution, not with swords or fire, but with claps and steps and fearless hearts. The women who had once lived like shadows had become flames, their dance brighter than the lamps of Navratri. And Rupa, the widow once silenced, became the heartbeat of the village, a symbol of courage, of devotion, of liberation. This story reminds us Navratri is not only about worshipping the goddess in temples, but also about awakening the goddess within every woman. Garba is not just a dance, it is the rhythm of resilience, the song of strength, and the circle of equality. Because when women rise together, not even the loudest drum of oppression can drown out the sound of their freedom. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe and join for more motivational, emotional, and heart-touching stories. Thank you.